You know that feeling right after the holidays where you feel like you're really just very congested? You're feeling a lot of bloating and a lot of that weight gain and a lot of just that fluid retention from eating like crap. I swear, every year around the holidays in my clinic, tons of people start coming in, dozens and dozens, saying, oh, I just really need like a gut cleanse or a detox, or do you have any kind of tea that can help me detox and get just some of this fullness and this bloating and this fluid retention out of my system? And the answer is, of course, because I specialize in this kind of thing. But in this video, I wanted to share one formula that can be commonly used for both GI problems, bloating, gas, constipation, as well as can sometimes help people lose weight. Hey guys, I'm Dr. Alex Heyne, board licensed doctor of acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine, and author of the health book Master the Day. So let's jump in here. Now let's talk about this idea of detoxification pathways. You know, your body is constantly interfacing with the external environment in many different ways. Even just as I talk here, I'm not eating or drinking, but I'm breathing. And the exchange of gases and of air is also a kind of detoxification. The lungs are one of our largest detoxification organs. And of course, we can inhale toxins themselves, right? I mean, I lived in China. I lived in Beijing, China for a year and a half. Can you imagine the level of carcinogens I breathed in for a year and a half? So your skin is also one of those detoxification organs as well. But there are the traditional ones that you normally associate with detoxification. For example, your liver, your kidneys, and also your general digestive system overall, but your colon. These organs are working all the time in your favor to try to get rid of the junk that life brings in, that we put in our mouths. It is trying its best to work with all of the body systems online to get rid of this toxicity that can cause cellular damage, for example. But these pathways can become impaired. They can become impaired either just through living a unhealthy lifestyle. Basically, when all of these organs are firing on all cylinders, your body is operating at its max capacity. So it doesn't necessarily inherently need to be detoxed. But if we are giving the holiday example of, oh, I'm so bloated, I'm so gassy, I'm so constipated, there are things that you can do, obviously, to feel much better. Now, one other concept here that's really important is that in traditional Chinese medicine, there's something called qi stagnation constipation. Qi stagnation constipation is the kind of stagnation that comes when you're having a really stressful day. You know, normally you have your morning routine, but now you know you've had a really tough day. You haven't really had the time to go to the bathroom. You haven't really felt the urge because you're too busy working, you're stressing, your body's tense, and as a result, you missed your urge for bowel movement. This is a kind of qi stagnation constipation, where issues with the emotions are interfacing with the nervous system, and then they're directly interfacing with the bowels or lack of bowel movements overall. Now let's tell a story about a mysterious juice that was given to me in a remote part of the Sahara Desert for this exact issue. You know, some years ago, about 15 years ago, I boarded a flight to a little oasis village town in southern Algeria in the Sahara Desert called Tamanrasset. And I was traveling with a band of Tuareg nomads on a vision quest, actually, to do a solo in the Sahara Desert for 5 days without food. You know, we had made our way via camel caravan and we went for several more days deep into the desert. And then eventually we set up camp in an unknown area in a remote part of the war-torn desert where I was going to do my Sahara vision quest. I did my solo and I spent the time alone. It was very profound. But when I came back from not eating after 5 or 6 days, as we began reintroducing food, it was 5 or 6 more days and I hadn't had a bowel movement. So at this point, I was getting quite scared. And being several hundred miles deep into the remote Sahara Desert with no one having a phone, I just thought, if this is a medical emergency, how would anyone be able to help? So we told one of the Tuareg about what was going on and they gave me some mysterious drink. I don't know what it was. Now, that night we were all sitting by the fire and we were speaking with the shaman and some of the advisors who were the Europeans that did this trip. And sure enough, that juice, that formula they gave me, had me running out to a remote acacia tree and it cleared me out. Now, I was wondering what that formula was and they weren't able to actually tell me what it was. But since then, it's made me think about the concept of annually doing a sort of cleanse, particularly around the holidays, the Christmas holiday, because after several weeks of Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, feasting in the United States, a lot of people have said they've gained weight, they feel really bloated, they feel very toxic, but what they're really talking about is their digestive system is the problem. Now, one of the reasons I got into this medicine was because of my own issues with lifelong GI problems. And so when I saw a TCM doctor, I was actually really surprised at what they said was the origin of this issue. They said it was an issue with my spleen. They called it spleen qi deficiency. Well, if you're wondering what are the origins of some of your symptoms, check out the quiz that I've put together. It's totally free. It's the first link below this video. You can also just go to dralexheyne.com/quiz. And it's like a 10-page questionnaire of every symptom I can think of that I see on a daily basis in my clinic in Los Angeles. And then it'll actually give you some links to other videos that we've shot here on more targeted recommendations for the conditions themselves. So I'd highly recommend starting that quiz because it's going to give you a lot of answers as to what the actual root cause is behind your symptoms. So let's talk about what actually you can use in terms of formulas. A lot of the formulas that you can end up using for this kind of pattern are formulas that we call herbs that treat food stagnation. So there's a whole category in traditional Chinese medicine, several thousand years old, called herbs that relieve food stagnation. And if you can imagine, indigestion from overeating is exactly that. It's just a different word. But I want to highlight here one formula that is commonly used in elderly people that is used primarily for the constipation that can come with just really impaired motility. This paper is called The Efficacy of Mazirenwan, a Chinese herbal medicine in patients with functional constipation in a randomized controlled trial. A trial of 291 patients with constipation were seen at 8 clinics in Hong Kong from June 2013 to August 2015. They were observed for 2 weeks and then assigned randomly to groups given Mazirenwan, and they compared it actually versus Senna. So lots of people with constipation will self-administer Senna. You have to be very careful with taking stimulant laxatives long-term though. And a third group, which was their placebo group for 8 weeks. Now, what they found was that the group that received the formula called Mazirenwan had significant increase in colonic transit time, basically accelerated bowel movement time, and also reduced severity of constipation, straining, incomplete evacuation, and overall constipation symptoms compared with the group that received placebo or Senna. So this formula, Mazirenwan, often used symptomatically for constipation, outperformed Senna and outperformed nothing. You know, no surprise there, but you have to do that to prove it works. This is a formula you can use symptomatically short-term only to help as a gentle cleanse over, let's say a week or so. That will get a lot of that residual junk out of the intestines there if you're really constipated. And the herbs there are safe to use, short-term because it is a stimulant purgative as well. So technically, Mazirenwan, not a juice, although most often we do use formulas called tang in Chinese for constipation and GI issues. In this case, Mazirenwan comes as a pill, a wan, and you basically drink it with some warm water. Something to think about, something interesting for today, guys. Again, don't forget, I work with a limited number of new patients in my clinic in Los Angeles every single month or virtually via telemedicine. You can just go to dralexheyne.com/clinic, or there's information, the phone number, the clinic email, etc. to book right down below this video. And before you go, I have another great video series on digestive health right here.